baking for one. Where's my special assistant?
This is cake now.
This is Vladimir, my special assistant. Today we are going to show you folks at home how to create a single-party state ruled by an authoritarian government.
Did you say single-party state? I thought we make cake.
That's right, I said a single-layered cake. Vladimir. First, we'd like to start out with the basics. You see, this recipe works best when the ingredients are emotionally and physically tired due to a long-lasting war or revolution.
Ingredient? How do ingredients get emotionally or physically tired? I don't understand. What are you talking about?
I mean, we shake them up using a sifter. Weren't you listening? Anywho, ingredients go through hardships, and that's pretty much it. Now we're going to move on to internal structural problems. That's right, I'm talking about economic downfall.
Economic downfall? What type of cake are you making?
I'm talking about economic downfall. You see, we add the eggs next. Well, it looks like we have a pretty solid foundation, so let's move on to the fun stuff. The fun, sweet part of creating our single-party state. Sometimes, when sugar can no longer do its job, substitutes step in to take its place. Let's take brown sugar and cough syrup, for example. Both have the power to make this cake sweet, but one of them seems to be the obvious choice for this mixture because of its image with the public. And what will the people choose? The sugar substitute that promises the sweetest cake. Cough syrup.
You know what? This reminds me of the Russian dictator Joseph Stalin's rise to power. So, we have all these ingredients. What exactly are they?
You have your secret police, a little bit of a strong platform, elimination of opposition, economic downfall, and a crisis state.
Oddly enough, I trust you completely.
Baking for one, y'all. Didn't see you there. Excuse me, I'm just working on my own good well-being. You see, if the baking didn't fill you up, hopefully this next section will. You see, today we really want to inform you more about Stalin, been a totalitarian government, and just history in general. So stay tuned, because we're going to clear a whole lot of things up for you.
Civil war would use Stalin's talents as an organizer, an agitator who could push men into desperate action. The skills he had honed in orchestrating bank robberies now had real value. Lenin had exhausted himself in holding the revolution together. In May 1922, he suffered the first of a series of strokes. Over the next few months, he recovered some of his former strength, but he became concerned that he would no longer be able to control his increasingly powerful colleague, Comrade Stalin. As Lenin weakened through the winter of 1922, his fears about Stalin grew. In December, Stalin persuaded the Central Committee to make him responsible for Lenin's medical care. Now he had control over the man he had once served. Stalin would now use Lenin's name to destroy those who stood between him and absolute power. There was to be a collective leadership, but his main rival was Trotsky, the darling of the party. For 20 years, Stalin had lived in Trotsky's shadow. His fame as the charismatic orator and leader of the victorious Red Army during the Civil War matched that of Lenin himself. Trotsky had described Stalin as a grey bureaucrat, a mediocrity. It was a fatal underestimation of Stalin's political skill and of his unswerving hatred. Stalin now had control of the party machinery. He would use it over the next 6 years to destroy Trotsky and all his other rivals. Henceforth, Trotsky's name would become synonymous with heresy.
You removed Stalin. Checkmate Trotsky.
Regarding Stalin's viewpoint towards socialism, he promoted the concept of socialism in one country. This heavily rivaled Trotsky's idea of permanent revolution. Stalin believed that the Soviet Union could achieve socialism on its own. It did not need the help of neighboring powerful countries. Trotsky disagreed and said that we can only go through permanent revolution, and the only way that peace can be achieved is with the help of the neighboring countries. Stalin's idea appealed to the people because it not only promised peace and stability, something that they longed for so long, but he also tied himself with Lenin to market it to the people.
Можете рассчитывать на то, что товарищ Сталин сумеет выполнить свой долг перед народом. Перед рабочим классом. Перед крестьянством. Перед интеллигенцией.
She enjoys the company of her cats almost as much as she enjoys the company of her cardboard cutout of Harry Styles. Weighing 65 pounds, standing tall at 7'1", it's John Ledweek. Over in this corner, we have knitting aficionado and owner of Trotsky's, Chris Mountain. Okay, ladies, for 10 points right away. This was a campaign of terror that claimed the lives of millions in the 1930s.
What was the Eagle Scout movement?
I'm sorry, John, that was incorrect. Chris?
What is the Great Purges?
That is correct, Chris.
The Great Purges were perhaps the worst time under Stalin's rule. Caused by Stalin's paranoia, the goal of the Great Purges were to exterminate any enemies or any potential enemies that could even slightly threaten Stalin's rule. Many were forced to turn against their own family and friends because of torture by the political police, the NKVD. The main purges resulted in the deaths of hundreds of thousands and sent many to labor camps. The Ukrainians were hit the worst because Stalin decided to liquidate the entire leadership of the Ukrainian Soviet government, as well as the CPU. By 1938, many ministers of the Ukrainian Soviet government were arrested and executed, leaving Ukraine in a state of helplessness.
Stalin's secret police that would take away entire families and friends in the middle of the night to eliminate any and all opposition were
The KGB.
yet another wrong answer from John Ledweek. Chris, would you like to take a stab at it?
What is the NKVD?
That is correct, Chris Mountain.
Stalin's extensive use of the secret police began at the beginning of his rule through Cheka, but soon moved on to the use of the NKVD. The NKVD were the secret police used mainly for political repression, and they also regulated all the daily jobs such as traffic, firefighting, and border guards during Stalin's rule. They also ran the bigger things such as the Gulag system, which was their forced labor system, carried out mass deportations, mainly of the kulaks, and all executions, tortured citizens for confessions, and held various government positions. The NKVD were used predominantly during the Great Purges, as well as each and every day during Stalin's rule to spread the word of communism and spread fear.
Next question. Stalin passed laws stating all accused of terrorism would be...
What is Bergenstocks? What is executed?
That is correct. Wow, we're seeing a very defined lead coming from Chris Mountain. John Ludwig, step it up, man. Alright, next question. Name 3 groups of people who were deported to labor camps.
What is rock climbing? What are U.S. That was wrong. What are military and religious officials, minorities, and Soviet party leaders?
One of Stalin's methods to rise to power was deportation, his 3 main targets being Soviet party members, ethnic minorities, and religious officials. The Soviet party members threatened Stalin because at first he had no power and he didn't really have the majority of votes. Therefore, he got rid of those who opposed his ideas, the 3 main being Trotsky, Zinoviev, and Kamenev. Trotsky being his first religious opponent, and Zinoviev and Kamenev being those who sided with Trotsky later. He had them deported to separate sides and then later executed, so they cannot communicate with each other. He also effectively deported any other Soviet party members that questioned his beliefs, and that efficiently helped him get his rise to power. The next one being ethnic minorities. Stalin distrusted many groups like the Koreans, Germans, Tatars, Chechens, and the Poles, and had millions deported to areas like Siberia and Central Asia, separating them so they could also not congregate. The last one being religious officials. Stalin did not want any religious icons to be seen above him, so he quickly dispelled the idea of God, and also dispelled those who spread the idea of God, like the religious officials.
In which year was the procurator created, allowing state to prosecute citizens?
1932. What is 1933?
Alright, folks, this is the very last question of the game. The winner of this will take all the marbles. What was Stalin's forced famine?
It was an intentional famine from 1932 to 1933, which killed off 7 million Ukrainians by the end of it.
Oh, I am sorry, John Ludwig, but you failed to put your answer in the form of a question. Well,
During Stalin's rule, the Ukrainians arguably got the worst end of the stick, seen through the forced famine in 1932 to 1933. Stalin's intention was to destroy all the Ukrainians that were seeking independence from his rule. Under Lenin, the previous ruler, the Ukrainians had independence, which Stalin wanted to take away. Therefore, he set collectivization and seized all lands from the farmer class, the kulaks. Anyone who refused to participate was declared a kulak and deported. Stalin seized about 75% of their farms, dropping their grain supply significantly and storing the grain for him and his government officials and his workers. When resistance continued, Stalin had the Soviets seal off all of Ukrainians' borders, blocking any food from entering. The police raided the houses and took stored food, and pretty soon the elderly and children quickly died. And then the ones who lived resorted to small rodents and cannibalism. By the end of this famine, about 7 million people died, taking away 25% of Ukraine's population.
madness. Congratulations, Chris. You win absolutely nothing. Join us next week for another episode of Methods of Madness, where we'll focus on Hitler. Thank you, folks, and good night.
At the time of his death, Stalin was probably the best-known man on Earth. His popularity far outstripped that of any other world leader. In the Soviet Union, his image was everywhere. He had become a living icon, the subject of a cult of personality. 160 million people felt they knew him personally. But the man they knew was an invention.
One of Stalin's methods of his rise to power was his heavy use of propaganda. He coined the term father of the nation for himself to create a facade that he cared about all, something that each citizen really craved at that time due to the lack of instability and no peace. He also tied himself closely with Lenin, making his relationship with him seem a lot stronger than it actually was. He exploited the media, such as the radio, newspaper, posters, cinema, and art, to build up his image, to make himself seem more appealing to the general public. Stalin's 5-year plan was a series of plans to develop the Soviet's economy. The main goal was to increase industry and make the Soviet Union self-sufficient. The first plan lasted about 5 years and focused on the rapid industrialization and collectivization of agriculture. Though it ended with a 30% drop in grain production, causing nationwide famine, it was successful towards industrialization, which was the overall goal. The second plan lasted 4 years and continued on the industrial path, but it initiated lower standard of living. Because of the lower availability and quality of consumer goods, the people were overall hurt. The third plan lasted only 3 years because it was disrupted by Germany's declaration of war on the Soviet Union. Because of the imminent war, it focused on the production of weaponry and war products. Overall, though the plan did not exactly follow the 5-year goal, by 1952, the industrial production of the Soviet Union nearly doubled. Stalin helped transform the Soviet Union into an advanced economy from the once peasant-filled agricultural land it was.
So, as an industrial worker, how has Stalin affected your life?
We've increased production by a lot. I mean, we stopped working weekends and we get more hours. There are more people. But if you listen to me, I'm not sure how much we've actually increased. I think he's just trying to catch up with the rest of the world. But I did not say that.
What are you talking about?
Just how good boss you are. Just boss. Great boss.
That's right.
Under Stalin's rule, the concept of new family led to a family where the woman and the men were seen as equals. However, it did not pan out that way. Women were forced to work domestically and outside in the actual labor force, thus doubling their work. And even outside in the labor force, they were not given the same pay or responsibilities as men, therefore not giving them the gender equality that they strive for.
So, as a peasant woman in society, how do you feel like Stalin is helping you?
Well, he places lots more influence on the role of women in today's society and lots more influence on a protected family. However, he doesn't give much opportunity for us to be fed. I haven't eaten in...
What is going on here?
We are talking about you and your greatness in today's society.
Here is food for 1 month.
Oh, this will feed all 9 of my children. Thank you for your generosity.
Under Stalin's rule, the most important emphasis placed on children was education. However, that was limited to what Stalin saw fitting. They were taught only the communist and socialist ideas that Stalin approved of, and very often they were used as spies for parents. They were brainwashed to an extent by Stalin and his ways.
Stalin? Yeah. Oh, can I call you Yusuf? Or just Stalin? No? Okay, that's cool. My name is Henrik. I would like to report rebellion on my father. You see, he has secret meetings.
This way.
No, you see, no, father. Say, father, I have to do this. It's for my country. And, he's new. You see, my father was a farmer, and now he's an industrial worker. He doesn't really like the hours, doesn't get a lot of pay. He's been having secret meetings, trying to overthrow your party, and he says your mustache looks like a dead squirrel. His words, not mine. I'm just saying, execute this guy, okay? For the good of Russia. We've got to get rid of him. He's my father. But Soviet Union comes first in my heart. Anyway, that's just it. That's just it. But, we'll keep in touch, okay? Okay, call me.
Stalin is bad. Can't you see? We're hungry and we're tired, and this man's not doing anything. Can't you see? Bad. Stalin is bad. Stalin is bad. Stop. Stalin.
Yay! Justice! Stalin is the best!
Товарищ красноармейцы, краснофлотцы, командиры политработных, партизаны и партизанки, на вас смотрит весь мир, как на силу способную уничтожить разбойничьи орды немецких захватчиков. На вас смотрят все народы Европы, временно подпавшие под иго немецкой тирании, как на своих освободителей. Великая освободительная миссия выпала на вашу долю. Будьте же достойны этой миссии. Вы ведете войну освободительную, справедливую. Пусть в этой войне вдохновляет вас мужественный образ наших великих предков Александра Невского, Дмитрия Донского, Кузьмы Минина, Дмитрия Пожарского, Александра Суворова, Михаила Кутузова. Пусть осенит вас непобедимое знамя великого Ленина. За полный разгром немецких захватчиков, смерть немецким оккупантам. Да здравствует наша славная Родина, ее свобода, ее независимость. Под знаменем Ленина вперед к победе!
You're a jerk.
I know.
You're a jerk.
I know.
You're a jerk.
I know.
You're a jerk. You're a jerk.
No boy.
You're a jerk. You're a jerk.
No boy.
You're a jerk. You're a jerk.
No boy.
You're a jerk. You're a jerk.
I'll quit Stalin and get to the facts. Stalin was a cold-hearted, ruthless dictator who used fear and empty promises to captivate the minds of his people. Turns out in the end, you don't always get what you want.